very good evening to you. It is a beautiful Wednesday evening. It is the 29th day of November 2023. Could you believe it? November the 29th. In a couple of days, it's Christmas. It's going to be here. And it's another On The Map program on your radio here on the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, Vaughan Radio. I am Eric Evelyn, sitting in for regular host, Honorable Mark Bradley, who is away on official duty. He's in Cartagena, Colombia. And he's there at the GeoLAC conference on geothermal. And of course, he's representing us here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. He was specially invited to go and speak about what we are trying to do here on the island of Nevis where geothermal is concerned, and we wish him all the best in his official duties there in Colombia. And so I am here tonight with you. Of course, I'm no stranger to On The Mark, I'm no stranger to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you on a Wednesday night. Of course, you know that we meet here every Wednesday night from 8 until 10 o'clock for On The Mark. And of course, we know that this is a program that has a lot of reach, has a lot of popularity, and quite a lot of persons tune in to ensure that they get all of On The Mark. And so I take this opportunity to welcome all of you who are in tune at this time, those of you who are in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis right here at home, those across the region, and of course those joining us in the diaspora. And of course we know that we have lots and lots of listeners and persons who go online in the diaspora, who follow On The Mark, who want to know what's happening here in their native island of Nevis. And so people tune in every Wednesday to get an update on what is happening, and of course sometimes they get a chance to call in as well. So we welcome all of you who are in tune to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, Vaughan Radio 860 on your AM dial, www.vaughanradio.com. And of course you know that we are live on Facebook as well. And so we welcome all those who are listening or those who are viewing via Facebook, those online. We heartily welcome you. And it is such a pleasure to have you with us tonight, as of course we know it's 2 hours of commercial-free talk show. And of course we know that this is a talk show. This is On The Mark, where everybody listens, and they listen not only once but twice, because there's a rebroadcast the following day at 1 p.m. So once again, Eric Evelyn inviting you to stick and stay with us for the entirety of this program. We go until 10 o'clock. A little later on, I'm going to be having some guests with me, but in the meantime, I'm alone, and so we normally do some housekeeping matters at the top of the show. And so, of course, I'm going to do that just about now. And let me take this opportunity to wish all who might be celebrating a birthday or an anniversary today all the very best. Hope you've had a wonderful day. And of course, you know, we here at the Eastern Caribbean Spa House and at On The Mark like to celebrate with you. And those of you who might be celebrating, we wish you all the very, very, very best. I don't have anybody on my list tonight, but those of you who might be celebrating today, those of you who are celebrated earlier this week, those who are celebrating for the rest of this week, we bid you a wonderful, wonderful birthday, anniversary, or whatever celebration you are having. And of course, those of you who are not feeling too well, those of you who are a little bit under the weather, we say good evening to you as well. Those of you who might be in the hospital, those of you who might be in the flamboyant home, the St. Jordan Citizen and St. John Senior Citizens Home, we greet you as well. And of course, we greet all those who are taking such fabulous care of you. So we greet all of the persons who are working at these institutions, those who are ensuring that our persons feel a little better, even just by being there, just by that gentle touch, just by giving them the medication, their bath, whatever you're doing. We thank you so much for that service, invaluable service to those persons who are a little bit under the weather. And of course, we want to say good night as well to those who are in the bereaved column. And I know that here on the island of Nevis, we are one big happy family. And so when one person is grieving, we grieve along with you. And of course, we want to extend condolences to those who might be grieving. Of course, we want to say condolences to the family of the late Orlando Sargent, who was laid to rest on Monday. My permanent secretary, Huey, and Alvier, and Hugh, and the rest of the family. We are with you during this very difficult time. And of course, we also want to reach down to Hanley's Road in my hometown and say condolences to the family of the late Ezekiel James, to his dear wife, Floristine, most of us know her as Doris, and of course the rest of the entire family, nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, wherever you are related to Ezekiel. That funeral will be tomorrow, Thursday at 2 p.m. at the St. George's Anglican Church. So those of you who can go and support the family, we're asking you to go and support the family as well. And of course, also down in Hanley's, we say good evening and condolences to the family of the late Llewellyn Shorty Hanley. Most of us know him as Shorty. And he would have battled a short illness, and now he has gone home. And so we say good night and condolences to his son Chris, his wife Elmina, the rest of the family, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins. We say condolences to you. And of course we say condolences as well to the family of the late Enid Manners, to Lynn and Franchett and McHale and all of the rest of the family. We say condolences to you. It's never easy to lose someone. And of course we say condolences as well to the family of the late Julie Liebert. We would have lost her on Saturday in the US. And we say, I know that is quite a huge family, so we say goodnight to all of who are mourning the loss of Julie, to the children, in particular Ricky and Risa and the rest of the family, the rest of the children, the brothers, the sisters, nieces, nephews, what have you, grandchildren. Of course we know it's a difficult time, but I trust God will keep you in his embrace during this very, very difficult period. So we say condolences to all who are mourning, from all of us here at Vaughan Radio and all of us from On The Mark. And now that we have done that, of course, we have a lot to celebrate this evening. We have a lot to talk about. And as I said, we will be having some guests a little later on, but we have a lot to celebrate, a lot to talk about. And so let's go into the celebratory mood. And we of course, we like to celebrate with you from here, from On The Mark. And so we want to extend some congratulations to a number of persons tonight. A lot of persons deserve congratulations tonight, and we're going to do that here at On The Mark. Of course, On The Mark is not just about politics. It's not just about the politics of the day. Of course, we like to celebrate when you're celebrating with you, and of course when you're down, we are also there to show solidarity with you as well. I want to extend some congratulations first and foremost to 4 persons who would have received national awards last week. There were 2 investiture ceremonies there at the Government House in St. Kitts last week, and we had 4 persons from Nevis who were among the honorees. And the 4 persons were Mr. Joseph Liebert. He had received the Medal of Honor for Law Enforcement. Mrs. Janetta Morgan, Medal of Honor for Education. Daniel Atherton, Star of Merit, Agriculture, Farming and Small Business Development. And Ima Stanley, Star of Merit for Nursing. And so we say heartiest congratulations to those 4 deserving nationals of Nevis who were part of the Federation's honors list. Of course, the list would have been announced during independence in September, and those persons would have received their honors in the investiture ceremonies that were held at government headquarters in St. Kitts last week. Also happening in St. Kitts last week, I was very fortunate to be part of that cooperative quiz that was held in St. Kitts at the Kuna headquarters in St. Kitts, hosted by the St. Kitts Nevis National Cooperative League and the Department of Cooperatives on St. Kitts. And for the very first time in the 5-year history of the quiz this year was the 5th anniversary of the quiz, and for the first time within that 5 years we had Nevis being represented. And so the schools are normally zoned. It's a primary school quiz. The schools are normally zoned. And so this year, for the first time, we had the Nevis schools being zoned in one zone. And emerging from that Nevis zone, we had 2 schools represented from Nevis. We had the St. James Primary and we had the Maud Cross Preparatory. So those 2 schools were represented. Of course, 2 students per school represented. And of course, being the Minister of Cooperatives on Nevis, I was invited. I was fortunate to say a few words at the closing ceremony as well. A wonderful quiz, very competitive quiz. I want to say congratulations to the winners of that quiz. The Sandy Point High School coming in second were the throne champions from last year, the Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School, and coming in third was the Immaculate Conception Catholic School. And of course, I would say here as well that at the end of the regulation time, at the end of the quiz, per se. The Maud Cross and the Immaculate Conception were tied in third position. Remember, as I said, Nevis was entering for the very first time. And so the Maud Cross Preparatory and the Immaculate Conception, they were tied in third position. And so they had to have a tiebreaker. And during the tiebreaker, the Immaculate Conception Catholic School emerged in third place. But we want to say a special congratulations to the two schools that represented us in Nevis and represented very well. The St. James Primary and the Maud Cross Preparatory. Congratulations to you. And I want to say special congratulations to one of the students from Nevis, from the Maud Cross Preparatory, who actually emerged as the top student, the only student who received a perfect score during the quiz. The only student who received a perfect score, and that student is none other than Audrey Brown, and she represented the Maud Cross Preparatory School. So we say congratulations to you, Audrey. We are proud of you, and congratulations. I'm extra proud because she lives in my constituency and she's my little cousin as well. And so congratulations to you, Audrey. Congratulations to Maud Cross Prep that came in fourth. Congratulations to St. James Primary. And of course, we are happy now that the Nevis schools have now entered the competition. Going forward, I would hope that Nevis will continue to be a part of that cooperative quiz held in St. Kitts annually. So once again, congratulations to Audrey, to the rest of the students who took part from Nevis, and congratulations to all of the 8 schools that were able to be a part of the finals there last week Tuesday in St. Kitts. And as I said, we do have a lot to celebrate tonight, and so I will move on. And we had a ceremony this past Saturday at the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park. Now, I think it was last week was International Men's Day, and this year, for the very first time, we normally have an award ceremony for men in Nevis and an award ceremony for men in St. Kitts. And of course, we know that the Gender Affairs Department in both St. Kitts and Nevis have now decided, well, listen, we have always been honoring women, we've been always honoring the ladies, so now we need to start honoring the men. And of course, a lot of our men deserve to be honored. And so we had some gentlemen who were honored this past Saturday at the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park. And for the first time, we actually had a national awards ceremony. So it was a ceremony, it was a joint ceremony between St. Kitts and Nevis. So the Gender Affairs Department on St. Kitts and the Gender Affairs Department on Nevis came together to host a national ceremony, men's award ceremony, and I understand this is what will happen going forward. So this year, for the first time, it took place on the island of Nevis at the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park. Next year, we will be journeying to St. Kitts, where the activity will be hosted, and so we will alternate every year. So this year for Nevis, next year for St. Kitts, the following year for Nevis, the following year for St. Kitts, and that is how it will go. And I have to say kudos to the Department of Gender Affairs here. They did a marvelous job, an outstanding job in hosting that competition, of course, with hosting that award ceremony with some assistance from the Gender Affairs Department in St. Kitts. And I want to just inform us as to who the recipients of those awards were. Of course, they received awards in various categories, and I will just say heartiest congratulations to the recipients, and I will let you know who those recipients were. For community activism, we had Dunford Wilkinson from Nevis and Terry Morris from St. Kitts. For the creative economy, we had Orville Storrett from Nevis and Sylvester King Socrates Hodge from St. Kitts. For first response, Brian Dyer from Nevis and Sydney Royston Bridgewater from St. Kitts. In entrepreneurship, Michael Morton from Nevis and Michael Bridgewater from St. Kitts. For sustainable development, Jevon Williams from Nevis and Otis Jeffers from St. Kitts. In education, Lawrence Richards from Nevis and Stanley Nisbet from St. Kitts. Health and Human Services, William Bully Perkins from Nevis and Dr. Isben Williams from St. Kitts. We also had some special awards, and those special awards go like this. We had the Legacy Award. We had Oscar King Astor Brown from Nevis, who captured the Legacy Award, and from St. Kitts was Leslie Sugarbowl Morton. Then we had the Premier's Award that was presented to Sterling Heiliger. And then we had the Prime Minister's Award presented to Delbert Samuel. And we also had a regional award. And that regional award was presented to Mr. McClevon Mackey Truss. And so we say congratulations to all of the fine gentlemen for your award, well deserving of these gentlemen. And so congratulations to you. And who knows, one of you gentlemen or a couple of you gentlemen out there who are listening might be awarded next year or will be awarded next year for International Men's Day. So congratulations once again, and kudos once again for a fine ceremony hosted there at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Then on Sunday, this past Sunday, the 26th of November, as I said, we do have a lot of people to celebrate tonight. And I am happy that I'm part of an administration that we like to celebrate people. When people do good, when people shine, we like to big them up and we like to celebrate them. That is what we're here for. We should be celebrating each other. And I want to say kudos and big congratulations to Pastor Arthur Freeman from right up there in Rollins Village, from my constituency. He's celebrating, hear this, 55 years in the ministry. 55 long years in the ministry. And they had a wonderful service there for Pastor Freeman at the Craddock Road Church of God of Prophecy this past Sunday, the 26th of November. I was fortunate to be part of that service. I was fortunate to be able to say a few words to Pastor Freeman of congratulations at the service. And there were so many kudos to Pastor Freeman at that service. And so, Pastor Freeman, congratulations to you. Those of us who know Pastor Freeman know the fantastic, fine, wonderful, humble gentleman that he is. Always smiling, always has an encouraging word for you. Of course, he can preach very well too. And of course, he's a model father and grandfather and husband. And as I spoke on Sunday, I said one of the things I admire most about Mr. Pastor Freeman is that jovial spirit, that jovial attitude. You never have a dull moment around that gentleman. And as I said there at the service, I don't know why sometimes people say that Christianity is dull and boring, because this is a Christian who is never dull and never boring, always has a joke to crack, And I just want to say congratulations, Pastor. You look young. You look very young indeed. And so I think you still have a lot of work to do in this part of the vineyard. So congratulations on the excellent work that you have done. And you have been committed. And I just want to say congratulations to you for sticking to the task for 55 years. I wish you 55 more years, Pastor Freeman. And of course, this past Monday, we had the 25 most remarkable teens, the special sitting of the National Assembly. And we had, of course, that is on the cards every year for Youth Month on St. Kitts. And so we had the 25 most remarkable teens. And trust me, they are remarkable indeed. I had the privilege and honor of greeting all 25 of them prior to the ceremony starting, and I have to say they're all remarkable young people. And when our young people do good things, we need to ensure that they're put in the spotlight, because when they do bad things, the bad news spreads like wildfire. And so we want to congratulate our 25 most remarkable teens. Of those 25, 6 are from the island of Nevis. But I want to read the names of all the 25, because I think we deserve to know who these 25 most remarkable teens are and what they were awarded for. And so for the 25 most remarkable teens, we had Marticia Bedford in the area of entrepreneurship and most promising, Danique Descent, most promising and entrepreneurship, Patrina Pereira, technology and leadership, Alana Donrod, courage to overcome, Ashley Wilson, visual arts and entrepreneurship, Michaelia Martin, entrepreneurship, Akanya Samuel Francis, sports, Kalia Huggins Simmons from Nevis, academics and leadership, Kimeli Jules, Courage to Overcome and Most Promising. Destiny Morris, Most Promising and School Pride. Tiana Williams from Nevis, Spiritual Commitment. Malika Howell, Youth Activism and Technology. Jaden Liebert from Nevis, Academics and Volunteerism. Lamar Coker from St. Kitts, Entrepreneurship. Maya Daswani from Nevis, Academics. Tony Allen, Academics and Leadership. Dylan Theron from Nevis, Academics. Brianna Chapman from Nevis, Leadership and Volunteerism. Tequila Ha Johnson, Youth Activism. Michaelia Tucker, Academics and Leadership. Jacinda Wharton, Academics and Courage to Overcome. Sophia Maynard, Academics and Performing Arts. Deschanel Thomas, Sports. Rondell Williams, Scholar Athlete and Sports. And Jazara Andrew, Most Promising. And so we say heartiest congratulations to our 25 most remarkable teens for all of the fantastic work that you have done as young people in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Continue to shine, continue to be remarkable. Congratulations. I'm so happy that I was a part of that ceremony. I've been a part of the ceremony for the past couple of years, and it's always a pleasure to be in the company of these distinguished young persons. And so we continue. As I said, we have a lot to celebrate tonight. One of the big things we have to celebrate tonight, we had the opening of a shade house at the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School only yesterday, November 28th. And of course, you know that we have been talking a lot about agriculture on the island of Nevis, food security, food sovereignty. And we have been pushing agriculture, especially since the pandemic. We've been pushing it to our farmers. We've been pushing it in the schools. And I was so delighted to be a part of that ceremony. I was there at the groundbreaking a couple months ago. And I was even more privileged and honored to be part of that official opening ceremony of that shade house at the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School yesterday. Now, that shade house was donated by Helen's Daughters Incorporated, and that's an organization that is based in St. Lucia. So many persons may not have heard about Helen's Daughters. Now, just by the name Helen's Daughters, it's an organization mostly geared towards the advancement of women in agriculture and rural women in agriculture. But we have persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis who are affiliated with Helen's Daughters. One of the persons affiliated with Helen's Daughters is Mr. Mackie McLevin Truss, and he would have done some work with Helen's Daughters in terms of training in agriculture in particular. And so one of the driving forces behind that shade house at the EPPS was indeed Mr. McLevin Truss. We have several persons from St. Kitts who are involved as well. We have Latoya Duncan, who is is the rep in St. Kitts, and we have several ladies in St. Kitts and Nevis who have graduated from a number of training courses in agriculture that were organized by Helen's Daughters. Now, what is significant about this donation is that this donation to the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School is the first donation of this organization to any school in the region. And as I said, this organization is based in St. Lucia. And as we keep saying over and over again, that Nevis, Little Nevis, is on the radar where agriculture is concerned. People are looking at us and what we are doing here on the island of Nevis. And so for the very first time, this organization that has been around for some time, based in St. Lucia, and they have a presence in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think they have a presence, I'm not sure if it's in Antigua. But this organization from St. Lucia, they have never donated a shade house to a school in St. Lucia, where they're based. And they have reached across the waters, and they have donated a shade house to the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School. And when I spoke, I told the staff and students that they're very fortunate, because this is an organization all the way in St. Lucia and saw the confidence in the school at EPPS and decided to donate a shade house. Now, I am happy that the EPPS got this shade house, and I know a lot of the other schools are going to get jealous, and we will have to find some way of see how we can get shade houses for some of the other schools, because we just recently had a competition organized by the Department of Agriculture called the School Agro Competition. And the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School placed third in the outdoor category. And I was totally impressed and blown away with all of the primary schools on Nevis who took part in that competition, all of them. And it is funny because the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary staff, they have told us that in their little outdoor garden, they have been getting some serious licks from the monkeys. And so this shade house is very much welcomed. They are excited. The staff and the students, they are excited about this shade house. And of course, the students are now more excited about growing food as well. And so it's the agriculture thing is catching on. It's catching on in the schools. As I said, the schools are doing very well. And I'm pleased that Helen's daughters saw it fit to make that donation to the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School. And as I said, it is something to shout about, because for a school from Nevis to be the first school to be a recipient of such from an organization in St. Lucia speaks volume as to what we are doing and what we are trying to do here with agriculture in schools on the island of Nevis. And so I would say agriculture in schools got a major boost, got a shot in the arm yesterday with that official opening. And of course, with the official opening, we also had some students planting some seedlings there in the shade house. And of course, they have also said that what they will produce in the shade house will go towards the school kitchen, and they will produce enough so that they can sell and make some money as well. So those persons in the St. John's area, in the next couple of months, look out for produce from the shade house from the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School. So kudos, once again, congratulations to that smiling principal, Miss Liebert, and her team there at the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School. And I'm really, really proud. Mackie, thank you so much for all of the hard work you did to ensure that we get. And I made the commitment that whatever assistance we can give from the department and the Ministry of Agriculture, we will do that. Now, I also want to say that last week, I think it was on Friday, yes, on Friday, we would have made some presentations to some of our fishermen, our retired fishermen. We don't want to forget them. Recently, we celebrated International Fisheries Day. That was celebrated on the Tuesday, the 21st of November. And we would have decided, we had a few activities last week, and the climaxing activity we had on Friday, we decided to go and just pay homage to a couple of our retired fishermen. And so we did that to 6 of our fishermen. We presented them with some nice baskets, and those fishermen were all smiles, very, very happy to see us. And so I want to say congratulations. We made presentations to Maurice Isles, Berkeley Doer of Bath Village. Of course, we know when we hear about Bath Village and fishing, you always hear about Berkeley. Mr. Joseph Budgeon. And I have to say here, Mr. Budgeon is 91 years old. I think he's going to be making 92 tomorrow. Mr. Budgeon, birthday greetings in advance. You're still looking very well. And he was so very happy to welcome us with that presentation. Mr. Budgeon, have a wonderful, wonderful birthday when it comes tomorrow. We also made presentations to Mr. Garnet Webb, Mr. Leroy Cosia, who most of us know as teacher over there in Jessops, and Mr. Simeon Movin in Gingerland. We know him as Skiddy. So Skiddy over there at Hickman's was not able to receive his basket because he had a stroke, so his sister took it for him. But we were able to personally deliver to the other fishermen, the retired fishermen, and we thank you so much for the contribution that you have made to the fishing industry here on the island of Nevis. We will be eternally grateful to you. And of course, as we talk about agriculture as well, we did have 3 persons here from Marketing International Caribbean who visited Nevis this past week. As I told you, I mean, practically every week we have persons coming in to look at what we're doing here in agriculture. And these persons were from Trinidad. They were here to do some training in terms of their environmentally friendly line of chemicals that Nevis normally purchases, and we were happy to have them. Last week as well, I had the privilege of meeting two officials from Japan who are willing to give us some assistance in the fishery subsector as well, and we would certainly welcome that. And we also had an FAO official who visited to speak about digitization of the agricultural sector. And so I am proud as the Minister of Agriculture to say that agriculture in Nevis is certainly going places, and no one can doubt that, because the evidence is there, and it's there all over. I also want to say congratulations to the cricketers from Nevis. They would have gone to St. Martin this past weekend to take part in the Luther Kelly 35 and over tournament. They would have placed second. They were the defending champions. They were in the finals on Sunday with St. Martin, and they were dethroned by host St. Martin. So St. Martin, they are the reigning champions. Nevis came in second. I think St. Kitts came in third, and you also had Anguilla, who I think were part of that tournament as well. And so we say congratulations to our cricketers. As I said, we had so much to celebrate tonight, and so all of you who are celebrating in whatever way, we celebrate with you. We say congratulations. And I did indicate that we have some guests who will be coming in just about now. But before my guests coming in, I just want to inform our listeners and our viewers that next week, Tuesday, the 5th of December, is Budget Day. We will have a sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly, and on that day, the Premier of Nevis and the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Mark Brantley, will present the 2024 budget. And so that is something for all of us to look forward to. And so I'm asking you to tune in. Those of you who can make it to the assembly chambers, you can come. And those of you who are accustomed to listening and tuning in online, we're asking you to do so, to hear what the Premier has to say, what the Nevis Island administration has to offer for the 2024 budget. And so that's a mouthful. And so we will invite our guests in. And so we're going to take just one little short break and to get our guests settled in. And take it away, Melissa.
This is a public notice from the Ministry of Health, Nevis, regarding mosquito fogging.
The island of Nevis has experienced an increase in rainfall, which has led to an increase in mosquitoes. Mosquitoes can spread diseases such as dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. Therefore, the Nevis Island Administration's Ministry of Health, through its Environmental Health Unit, is undertaking targeted fogging on the island to aid in the elimination of adult mosquitoes. This activity will continue until further notice. The Environmental Health Unit will alert householders when the vector control officers are fogging in your area. Fogging has the greatest effect when mosquitoes are most active at dusk, early evening, and dawn, early morning. Fogging is currently being done in the evening between 4:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. Householders are asked to open all windows and doors to allow the fog to enter and kill mosquitoes that are inside their homes. The Ministry of Health wishes to thank the members of the public for their cooperation. For more information on how to prevent mosquito breeding and or about fogging, please contact the Environmental Health Unit at 469-5521 extension 6631 or 6630, or the Health Promotion Unit at 469-5521 extension 6391 or 6396.
Fight the fight, let's prevent dengue fever. Controlling the Aedes aegypti mosquito. So cover your drums and buckets, don't you let them breed. Put garbage in covered containers, I want you to take heed. Don't store them on tires from your house, that is a no-no. You must stay on your drains, the bush, as if your home on the show. Search the premises, make sure no mosquitoes are inside. Fight the fight, destroy mosquito breeding sites.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health Nevis, with support from the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO.
All right, well, thank you very much for those two ads, Melissa. And of course, we are back on the mark. Of course, we hardly ever take a break on the mark, but sometime we have to do that. And as I said, we have some guests in the studio this evening, and they are here because they're here to speak of about a very, very important issue, a very important problem that we are having presently. And I think those two jingles or ads we had a while ago were very fitting, because we're here to talk about the dengue fever situation here on the island of Nevis. And the reason why I decided to invite my guests in is because I don't think here on the island of Nevis we are taking this thing seriously. I don't think we are taking dengue seriously, and I think we ought to take it seriously. I think more people should be talking about it. We should learn more about it. There's so much to learn. Fortunately, the cabinet was able to learn more about the dengue fever recently at our cabinet meeting. I think it was only last Wednesday. And I was astonished because I learned a lot. There are a lot of things about dengue and the mosquitoes in general that I didn't know. And so I learned a lot, so I believe that our listeners and our viewers will be able to learn a lot tonight as well. And it's pertinent information that you need to know. We need to get the information out to you because we want people to act and act accordingly. It's a problem that seemed to be creeping up a little worse than we expected, and so we need to get a handle on the situation with regard to dengue fever here on the island of Nevis. And so I'm delighted and privileged to have three guests with me tonight, three very competent guests, I must add. And so I will now ask each of the guests to just introduce themselves and tell us who you are. Let the listeners know and the viewers know who you are.
Good evening to listening and viewing audiences. My name is Dr. Judy Nesbitt, and I work within the Department of Public Health.
Good evening. My name is Merville Morton. I'm the Principal Environmental Health Officer, and thanks for the invite.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Florel Hobson, and I am the Medical Chief of Staff at Alexandra Hospital.
Thank you very much. So as you could realize, we have a team of heavy hitters here tonight. We have two doctors in the house, and we have Mr. Morton as well, who is very versed in this thing based on what he would have shared with us last week. And so, as I said, we're here. Folks, welcome to On The Mark, and it's indeed a pleasure. I want to thank you all for accepting the invitation. Ever since you all came to the cabinet last week, I thought to myself, this information needs to get out to the public, and that is why I decided that for this edition of On The Mark, I would like to have some persons here to spread the information. Now, first of all, when did we start getting positive cases here on the island in terms of dengue? And what may have sparked these positive cases? Anyone can answer.
Well, we started seeing cases in our first suspected case, I should say, was in September. I could remember distinctly, September 30th. As I said, it was a suspected case. The person had the signs and symptoms of dengue, and the person had traveled, had just returned. So that sparked us to start thinking about dengue. The test result for that person came back negative. However, it did cause us to start thinking about dengue. And since then, we distributed the case definitions to the doctors at the hospital, and we have been getting we have been seeing more and more dengue cases. So that started in early October. Now we are in November, end of November, and thus far we have seen 160 persons up to yesterday, persons with signs and symptoms of suggestive of dengue. Of those, we have tested 158. 2 persons did not get tested because they presented early up and they were not tested. And so we have 96 so far laboratory confirmed positive cases of dengue, 19 negative cases, and we have 45 suspected cases. We are waiting results for 43.
So it's very possible that we're going to hit the 100 mark soon.
Very possible, yeah. Now, most of the affected areas, affected areas, I should say, would be the St. John's Parish. St. Paul's is next, St. Thomas's. But the entire island, none of the parishes are immune. All of the parishes have had positive cases.
Okay, now you said that when the person showed up at the hospital, they had symptoms, and so I believe persons, they want to know what the symptoms are of dengue. So at least if they have those symptoms, they need to probably act as quickly as possible. What can people look for in terms of being a suspected case of dengue?
Okay, so
Right. So I can answer that question
Sure.
for you, Minister Evelyn.
Yes.
So for persons who are experiencing fever, and this fever can be ranging from mild, about 100.4, up to very high fevers, up to 106. So persons who are experiencing high fever, that is a symptom of dengue. Also persons experiencing severe headache, pain around or behind the eyes, muscle pain, joint pain, nausea, and general fatigue. Those are signs and symptoms of dengue.
Okay, so anyone who shows up at the hospital with any of these signs, it's a red flag, and so you will try to get that person tested, I assume.
Right. So we would consider that dengue is possible in this person, but we also keep in mind that there are other illnesses that cause similar symptoms.
Yes.
But because there has been an increase in cases of dengue, we will be on high alert for dengue fever.
Because I understand that there's also pretty bad flu that is going around as well, and I assume some of those same symptoms for the flu as well.
Right, exactly. So the flu will also have fever, may also have joint pain, but we also expect with the flu some respiratory symptoms like cough and difficulty breathing.
Okay, now when someone gets tested, where is the testing done? Is it done here in the Federation? It has to go overseas? So how quickly do you get the results back?
Okay, so we have the capability of testing within the Federation. The testing is done at the Jane France General Hospital in St. Kitts. The turnaround time, it's about a week, sometimes a little longer. So we do, the patients do get back results, and they know their status.
Okay. Now, the numbers sound pretty high and pretty alarming to me, and I'm sure persons who are listening would probably think the same, and I'm sure it might be the same for you all. Do we have any idea if this dengue situation, if there's a problem in our neighboring islands, or why is it that Nevis is having such a problem with dengue if it's not in the neighboring islands?
We do have, there are cases, I should say,
Yes.
in neighboring islands. For example, the French islands, they have had outbreak of dengue, and some of all the neighboring islands.
Yes.
So this is not, dengue isn't anything that is, should I say, strange to us. We have had dengue cases in the past. Dengue is what we call endemic to St. Kitts Nevis. So every now and again we will have increasing cases. And with the increased rainfall and the increase in our mosquito population, we have seen an increase in dengue cases. We have had for instance, in 2011, we had 46 cases in the Federation. In 2016, we had 136, according to the Pan American Health Organization website. So it's cyclical in nature. So some years we have low figures, and some years we have high figures. But we have to remember, once we have increased rainfall, there is the risk of increased cases of dengue.
So is it possible then, because I know we had 2 weekends back to back with a lot of rainfall, when Hurricane Tammy was passing, and then the following weekend I think we had a lot of rain. Is it possible that these 2 back to back heavy rainfall situations could have sparked this problem?
It is quite possible,
Mhm.
most likely, because usually outbreaks of dengue or increased dengue spread would be, you get that more during the rainy season, because the mosquito needs water. So that's usually going to be the case.
Okay, all right. So it's very possible that those rainfall situations that we had would have caused this increase in mosquito. Now, some people may be puzzled because some people may not be aware. 'Cause when people hear a disease, any disease whatsoever, some people are puzzled as to how that disease is spread. What happens if it goes, how it goes from one person to the other, and in this case, of course, is the mosquito. How is dengue spread?
Okay, so the dengue virus, if a mosquito is infected with the dengue virus, and that mosquito then bites someone, when they're taking a blood meal, because what happens is the female mosquitoes must take a blood meal so that their eggs can mature. And as they take that blood meal, during that process, virus in the salivary glands are also passed on to the person that they are biting. Okay, so you have an infected mosquito taking a blood meal, the virus is in the mosquito, and as the mosquito takes a blood meal from someone, they also pass on the virus to the uninfected person. Now, once that person is bitten and the virus is passed into their bloodstream, it means then that they will get dengue. An uninfected mosquito can then come along and bite that person. Okay, take a blood meal, and as they take the blood meal, they also take the virus into the mosquito's body.
So the mosquito is actually now taking the virus from the infected person, into its body.
Yes.
And then now they can transmit it to someone else.
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay. Now, what we have to realize also is once a mosquito is infected, it's infected for its entire life. So that mosquito can fly around and infect a number of persons, because once it's infected until it dies.
So which means it can infect many persons.
Many persons.
Then. Wow. Because I know, like for example, the honeybee, it stings you and it's dead. Right? Now, when you all came to the cabinet as well, we were also learning how long the mosquito lives and that kind of thing, how far they can fly. Maybe you can enlighten us here, because I'm sure members of the public are not aware of how long a mosquito can live, because that depends on, that also says how many people can infect. How far can it fly? If a mosquito bites someone here at Vaughan Radio, how far can it fly into Charlestown and bite someone else and infect that person? Tell us about the life cycle of the mosquito, how long it's around, will be around for, and how far it can venture.
The mosquito in this case is the Aedes aegypti. It is a small black mosquito with some very distinctive white markings on his legs, on his back. It is a daytime biter. It bites during the day.
So you're saying it doesn't bite at nights? You go to sleep at night?
Usually, it is when mosquitoes, they have different periods when they would bite. Some would bite at nights, some would be dusk and dawn. The Aedes would bite throughout the day. The next thing with it is that Aedes lives around us. So they call it domesticated. You're always going to find the Aedes mosquito either in your house or around your house. It is not going to be too far away from the breeding source.
So you're actually saying that the Aedes aegypti that spreads the dengue is always with us in Nevis?
It is always here.
Okay.
And that mosquito is so well adapted to living amongst us It's not going to fly too far, and this is one of the few mosquitoes that feed exclusively on humans. Some mosquitoes, would feed on animals,
Right.
Birds, dogs, whatever. Aedes aegypti, that would feed on humans. The next issue with it is where it breeds. This mosquito breeds in containers in and around the house. Tires are some of the most prolific. Drums, buckets, vases, bromeliads, tree holes, all that kind of thing, you're going to find them. So they're going to be in and around. It's quite domesticated. So if we get a complaint from somebody and they say the mosquito is at one end of Hanley's Road, that mosquito is not going to travel too far away because it's going to feed on somebody the only time we want to move if there's nobody. It also could hitch rides. Okay, that's it. They could hitch a ride in a car, and sometimes the mosquito threw the eggs. They would lay eggs in tires, even say if the tire is empty.
Okay.
You transport that tire somewhere else. Tire collects water, it hatches. So that's some of the very important thing. Now that mosquito, the Aedes aegypti, the life cycle, they would tell you. Normally they would say within 10 days it would complete its life cycle. But sometimes at the office we would have our little lab, rate them, and just maybe 8, sometimes 7, 8 days, you move from egg to the larvae, which we call the wrigglers.
Right.
Then the wrigglers go to the pupa, which are the tumblers going around. And once you have pupa, within a day, they're going to emerge as adults. The male mosquitoes usually emerge first. The females after. On average, the male mosquitoes would live, say, about a week. Because the male mosquitoes, they do not require blood. They feed on plants, nectar. The females, they now require the blood. And they could live for a few weeks. I know in cooler climates mosquitoes would overwinter, but here maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they're not going to live that much longer.
Okay. Now, Dr. Nisbet, you mentioned something that when the mosquito bites you, you get infected. How long after the bite are symptoms going to show up?
It ranges. It ranges from about 4 to as many as 10 days before the person starts to get the fever, the muscle aches, the headache, retroorbital pain, the pain behind the eyes, etc. that Dr. Hobson spoke about. So that's the incubation period.
Okay.
Before you start showing the symptoms. However, if a mosquito bites the person just before they start having the symptoms, because it's when the person has the fever that they're really, should I say, infective. So if a mosquito bites them when they're having the fever, then the mosquito can take that virus from that person and into its body and can pass it on to someone else. But that can also happen just before the fever starts.
So are we saying that because the dengue is so prevalent now, and listen, those of you who are out there and you have any questions to feed into this competent panel, you're free to call in. Our lines are open, 869-469-1616 and 1700. They're going to be here for a while, so if you want to call in and ask them any question which I won't be able to answer, please feel free, because as I said, this is something that we need to be educated on. This is something that we need to take action on now, because we want to curb the spread of this dengue virus. Now, I was saying, if because of the prevalence of the dengue virus now, are we encouraging persons who have any of these symptoms to come to the hospital?
As I mentioned,
or to a doctor?
Yes. So anyone who is experiencing fever, muscle pain, joint pain, headache, pain behind the eyes, and general fatigue, these are signs that it could be dengue, and so we are encouraging you to seek medical attention. Some of the messaging that would have been going out from the health promotion unit, you would have seen and noticed that said, do not self-medicate but seek medical attention. And part of that is because if we are suspecting that it is dengue, there's recommendations that you avoid certain medications.
Okay.
Yes. And so, just in general, as with any virus, persons who are infected may display a range of symptoms, from asymptomatic, which is no symptoms, to very severe disease. Most persons would be asymptomatic or have mild symptoms. Some persons can have severe symptoms, and we want to ensure that you know where you are. So I will just like to explain some of the severe symptoms.
Yes.
These persons who are having severe symptoms must seek medical attention immediately at the emergency room. So these are emergency symptoms.
Okay.
Okay? And those symptoms are severe abdominal pain, persistent vomiting, so that's vomiting that is not stopping, rapid breathing, any bleeding from the nose, gums, or any of the mucous membranes, so that would be like the anus, the vagina, and the skin, any easy bruising of the skin, general fatigue and restlessness, and extreme thirst, also pale and clammy skin. These are signs that there might be complications of dengue,
Okay.
which would lead to fluid leakage and can eventually lead to shock. And once you reach shock, that means that all of your organs are at risk for damage. And so that's why we are saying, if you have any of the severe symptoms, you must seek emergency attention at the emergency room. If you are having mild symptoms, you can opt to see your general practitioner or visit the health center for assistance. They may direct you to the lab to have the test done. It requires a blood sample, so there are some persons who might be hesitant about needles, but the test for dengue does require a blood sample, so you may be encouraged to go to the lab and have the blood sample taken. That sample, as Dr. Nisbet said, will be sent to the JNF lab, and then they'll be able to say whether it is positive or negative for dengue. So persons who are having mild symptoms can seek care at the general practitioner or at the health center. Persons who are having severe symptoms, we're encouraging you very strongly to seek emergency care right away at the emergency room.
Fantastic. We have a call online. Good evening, caller. The caller left. Caller, could you kindly call back and be patient? Now, what Dr. Hobson, what are the protocols at the hospital once anybody shows up with any symptoms, whether mild or severe? What are the protocols? What happens once the patient gets there?
Okay, that's a very good question. So once you present to the emergency room, you will undergo a process of what we call triage. And triage is for us to determine persons that need care immediately versus persons who can wait. Once you are triaged, if you need care emergently, you will be seen by the physician on duty, and they will ask questions and take a history, do an examination. They may, as I said, ask you if we can take the blood sample, and if you're having severe symptoms, one of the emergency treatments would be IV fluids. So they will more than likely put an IV cannula in the vein so that we can administer the fluids. So the fluids are going to be very important for persons who are having severe dengue, because as I said, one of the complications of dengue fever is that it causes fluid leakage inside of the body, and so persons can become fluid depleted very quickly, and so we want to replace that fluid with IV fluids.
Fantastic.
But as I said also, I do not want to spark fear or alarm. Most persons who do develop this virus will have no symptoms or mild symptoms. A very small percentage, about 5 to 10% of persons can develop severe dengue. But we do want persons to be aware of the severe symptoms so they can seek care.
Definitely. We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Good night. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes. Go right ahead.
Yeah, my question is, can someone get dengue from someone who is infected?
You mean if it's contagious?
Yes, yes.
So dengue is not spread directly from one person to the next. There is a vector. There must be a vector. The vector is Aedes aegypti, So Aedes, the mosquito, would bite an infected person, have that virus inside the body, their body, the mosquito's body, and when they bite another person, then they pass on the virus to that person. So there's no direct transmission. For example, someone can cough and pass dengue to another person. They can't sneeze and pass dengue to another person. They must be the vector, the Aedes aegypti mosquito.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Thank you very much for calling. Thanks, caller. And if there are any other callers out there who need any clarification on anything, we have another caller online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Evelyn. I'm calling from St. Martin.
Yes.
I don't know, but to me, it's a very good program.
Thank you.
And I don't know. I only know Dr. Nisbet. I don't know the doctor, the Hobson, and the gentleman. I don't know who they are, but I guess. I mean, you would know them. I don't live near this anymore.
Yes.
I wanted to know because I got some wet last week, and I came down with the flu. But some of the symptoms that is being spoken of, I don't really have them. But I know St. Martin has a lot of water issues. You know, even like we don't have proper drainage a lot of places and so. So I was wondering, because of the situation here, if a lot of us might be exposed to some of what is being spoken of there on the panel, the dengue. I know St. Martin always has a lot of mosquitoes, but I don't know, even before the rain and even after the rain. So I don't know if there's any. And one more thing, why do they have to test at the Gen France Hospital? Doesn't need this, the Alexander Hospital doesn't have that capacity to do the testing instead of having to resort to Gen. Thank you, I'll wait.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you very much, and you have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So in response to the question about the lab capacity at Alexandra Hospital, so at the moment, we do not have the capacity to test for dengue.
Okay.
But we are grateful that it is possible to test for dengue in the Federation, because in previous years we would have had to send our samples all the way to Trinidad and await the results after 6 weeks. And so the situation is much improved, and we are hoping to see some further improvements in the future.
So hopefully in the future we'll be able to do it here at JNF. We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good night.
Good night.
Yes, I know that dengue hemorrhagic fever is fatal, but have there been fatalities from just dengue fever with severe symptoms?
Excellent question, caller. We have two doctors here, so I believe they'll be able to answer that question.
Okay, so
offline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. So we have had some changes in how we classify dengue, and we just to piggyback on what I was saying, as we assess patients when they come. So we do check for the signs and symptoms. If they are present, we also want to know if there are any of the warning signs. So we have dengue with warning signs, and then severe dengue. So if someone is having any of those warning signs, like persistent vomiting or diarrhea, difficulty breathing, we want to know, have that person under close monitoring, so that we can ensure that they do not develop shock. Because as I said, shock is going to lead to organ damage. And if persons do have very severe illness, they can develop bleeding, and that's where the term hemorrhagic fever would have been from the past.
Yes.
Sometimes persons can have very severe dengue with no bleeding, and so the term hemorrhagic fever has been a little bit outphased, because we want to focus on the severe symptoms, even if there is no bleeding, because that person is still at risk for shock, even if they are not bleeding. So, as the caller mentioned, it can be fatal if someone does develop severe dengue, and especially if they do develop shock. Thankfully, so far we have had no fatalities. As I said, we will be continuing to monitor the situation continuing to test and continuing to look out for those severe cases.
Okay. Now the caller from St. Martin did raise the issue that he was having some symptoms. And do we have any information as to whether dengue is in St. Martin? Do we know? Are we aware if dengue is there? No. Okay, we don't have any information as to whether dengue is in St. Martin or what. But for the caller who have the symptoms, what would you advise that caller to do, doctors?
Well, as I said, if you're having fever,
symptoms,
joint pain, headache,
go to the hospital.
Yes,
Okay.
seek medical attention.
Okay. You mentioned something very interesting a while ago, Dr. Hobson. You said that there are certain medications that people should stay away from if they're having dengue fever. Naturally, persons like to try their own thing. If they have, even if a flu or anything, they like to try their own medication at home. Everybody likes to take the paracetamol and that kind of stuff. Do you care to tell us maybe a couple of the medication that people should stay away from, just in case their symptoms are actually dengue? Before you answer that question, we have a call online. Good evening, caller, you're live and on the mark.
Thanks for taking my call. I'm calling from all the way in New York, believe it or not.
Fantastic.
Question about the topic that is being discussed now, the dengue fever thing. I know some of the symptoms. Some people like to think, oh, I have a headache, I can just take 2 aspirin and whatever and it will go away.
Mm-hmm.
They prefer to go with their local remedies over seeking professional medical attention, especially like in the case of the fever.
Yes, and the flu.
If one goes the route of, I'm going to take care of how I feel by myself, I don't think I have any dengue, I don't have to go to any hospital and check out anything, and they try their local remedies such as boiling up some salt or bush or whatever to get the fever to go down,
Mm-hmm.
or take an aspirin to get the headache to go away, will that have an impact or a positive impact on this dengue symptom? Will it fix it, or will it still require that such a person who thinks that I can take care of myself, I don't need to go to seek any medical attention for the way I feel, will their local remedies fix the problem or at least bring it under control?
Thank you for your question. So we were actually just about to discuss treatments and remedies and what to avoid. Mm-hmm. And so I think we can segue into that very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So for the recommendation for persons who are seeking to relieve the pain and discomfort, because that is one of the major symptoms, the recommendation is to take acetaminophen, paracetamol, Panadol, Aramol, Cetamol, Tylenol. Those are the names of that drug, acetaminophen. What we don't want is for persons to take the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or NSAIDs, which are ibuprofen, Advil, Voltaren, diclofenac, Aleve, naproxen, aspirin, because those medications have a tendency to affect the platelets, and in complications of dengue, there can be a very low platelet count, and this can precipitate bleeding or make the bleeding worse. And so the anti-inflammatory drugs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen or Motrin, aspirin, diclofenac or Voltaren, naproxen or Aleve, these can cause dengue symptoms to become worse. Wow. And so we don't want you to take those.
So then I'm understanding them, because most people don't even read the differences between these painkillers. Mm-hmm. They figure, okay, Advil works for me, I have a headache, I take Advil, it goes away, or leave, whatever the case is. So in the case of those painkillers that will be harmful to the already harmful infection, how would they know not to take the ones that should not be taken when one develops that type of a virus and feel like I can handle it myself? I don't need to see any I don't seek any professional medical attention.
So the information that the Ministry of Health has been putting out to persons here in Nevis is that they should not self-medicate and seek medical attention, to seek medical advice before taking medication.
That's a good way. That's a good way of doing it, because we will have the ones who will always go against what should be the right thing to do. But since there is additional way of knowing what to take and what not to take, or what to do and what not to do in the form of literature, well, that should be sufficient. And who still decides to ignore the literature, well, very little one can do to further assist that. Thank you so much for answering the question. I do appreciate it.
And thank you so much for calling. You have a wonderful night.
You do too. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Okay. All right. Well, the calls are coming in, and we are happy that persons are listening and people are in tune to what is happening, because we really want this message to go out, and we really want to get a handle on this dengue fever situation here in the island of Nevis. Now, Dr. Hobson or Dr. Nisbet, not divulging too much information where patients are concerned. I know there has been some hospitalizations. I normally visit the hospital every Friday, and I would have seen persons there, and they told me they have dengue. The cases that have been hospitalized, how bad have they been? As I said, not divulging too much information per se about the patients in particular.
I believe that's all, Dr. Hobson.
Okay, thank you for your question. So far, we've had 16 admissions to hospital, and we are very cautious. As I said, when we're assessing patients, we want to ensure that if someone has any signs that they might be having complications, that they're under very close monitoring, and so we make that decision to admit them. During the admission, we again monitor their signs, symptoms, vital signs, fluid levels, to ensure that we are keeping them well hydrated and also alleviating any discomforts from the pain symptoms. So far, we have not had any cases that have gone into severe shock. But we are, as I said, very cautious, and we are monitoring the cases as they come.
Okay. Generally, what's the recovery period if somebody is infected with dengue today and they start getting symptoms today? How long can that person expect to have those symptoms, even if they're getting treatment?
So normally the person will be ill for about 2 to 7 days. By day 7, they should be feeling a lot better. However, as Dr. Hobson would have said, you can get severe, you can get what we call warning signs, and those warning signs can actually come at the end when they start feeling better and the fever is going down. Then they can start having these warning signs such as persistent vomiting, severe abdominal pain, irritability, etc., drowsiness, and even bleeding. And then is when they need to go to the emergency room immediately.
No, sorry, go ahead.
So with just mild symptoms, it will run a course of about 2 to 7 days.
Okay.
And most persons are better by then.
Now, I know you did mention that it is not contagious. Of course, our first caller was asking whether or not somebody can just spread it to the other. But you also mentioned that an infected person, once the mosquito bites that person and then comes and bites someone else in the vicinity, it could spread the dengue. So in a case like this, dengue is not contagious, but the vector can transmit the virus from one person to the other. Persons who develop dengue, is it advisable for them to stay away from work, stay out of the public domain for some time, and if so, how long?
Okay, so as I said, the persons are usually sick with fever. They have fever for 2 to 7 days. Once the person has fever, it means then that the virus is very active in their body, and if a mosquito bites them and then bites someone else, they can transfer. That mosquito can get infected and infect someone else. So we do ask persons to stay away from work, stay at home, and to take other precautions such as sleeping under net, using repellent, so that they don't get bitten at home and pass, and the virus passes to their family members.
Right.
Or to their co-workers if they go to work. So yes, we ask them to stay at home and to take all precautions not to get bitten by mosquitoes.
I'm happy you spoke about the net situation, because the fact that the mosquito bites you and takes it to someone else, you can have a situation where an entire family in a household can get infected.
Yes, that is so. Some of them may be asymptomatic, some may have the symptoms, some may go on to get severe symptoms. So that is why we ask persons to protect their families and protect their co-workers, protect their loved ones, protect their communities.
Can someone get dengue more than once?
Yes, there are 4 serotypes, or what we call strains of dengue. So we have dengue virus 1, 2, 3, and 4. And persons can, once they get bitten, bitten by a mosquito that's transmitting, let's say, dengue virus 1, and they get dengue virus 1, it means that they are immune. However, they can be bitten again and get another strain and get dengue all over again. So yes, you can get dengue more than once. And then there is the risk, of course, if you get dengue a second time, it can be more severe than the first time that you had it. And you can go on to get severe dengue.
Okay, thank you. We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Am I on the mark?
Yes, you are.
Well, I'd like to get set because I'm ready to go.
Go right ahead.
Good night, Honorable Premier Mr. Mark Brantley. Good night to you. Gentlemen, good night to you all.
This is not the Premier this time. This is Eric Evelyn hosting for the Premier. But good night to you.
Oh, well, I thank you very much. However, I was not listening to radio tonight. So
Okay.
I didn't know, but I called today and I asked a question about him being there. They said you should be on the show at 8:30 tonight. It's unfortunate because I would like to speak to something said, however, and directly to him, but
So I guess you can call back next week. He'll be here next week. He'll be here next Wednesday.
Most definitely.
Because most likely I won't be able to answer your question since you want to talk directly to him.
Oh no, I want to. This question I had was specifically geared to him.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he's not there. But
He'll be here next Wednesday. Okay?
And I do apologize for calling. Although I did need to speak to him, I didn't listen to radio tonight. I do not know. But I was told this afternoon when I called, he would have been on the radio. It's unfortunate. But thanks very much for informing me about that. And you have a pleasant night.
Absolutely. Thank you. You have a pleasant night rest as well. Okay. All right. Now, because of the dengue situation, we have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live on the mark. Good evening.
Good evening to the Honorable Evelyn.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is Mr. Politics here.
Yes.
I listened to this discussion and I'm very interested.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to ask the doctor that what type of mosquito do bite? If all mosquito bite, because I'm made to understand it's a different kind of mosquito. And let me tell you something. Mosquito land on me, sometimes I just kill them. They don't bite me. And I made to understand, right, that it go by how rich your blood be. If your blood rich, the mosquito bite you. And I hear that here's our smile coming up.
Mm-hmm.
They say if your blood rich, the mosquito bite you. But if your blood, like, you know, whatever, he ain't gonna bite you.
Mm-hmm.
Because your blood sweet, the mosquito like sweetness. So when your blood sweet, he'll bite you.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about dengue and everything and so, I do, at my age, I'm in my 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I never feel no effect from the dengue. No. I don't ever feel a little feverish or something.
Mm-hmm.
It is dengue.
Mm-hmm.
But I never got to no doctor or nothing for dengue or nothing, and doctor tell me dengue.
Mm-hmm.
Because mosquito very seldomly bite me.
You're very fortunate, sir.
Yeah, they very seldomly bite me. In my job, I got a mosquito all around.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find a mosquito surrounded me and nothing. I don't know why. Because I always say that when you're blood rich, they bite you.
Well, the doctors are here. They can answer that question.
So yeah, that is what I want. I want them to answer the question.
And you want to know if all mosquitoes bite as well?
Yeah, if all mosquitoes bite. Yeah, if all mosquitoes bite. Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I want to know the different type of, because here the gypsum mosquito and some other type of mosquitoes. I want to know if all mosquitoes bite.
Okay.
Okay then. Okay.
Thank you very much, and you have a good night. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Answer the question. All mosquitoes do not bite.
All do not bite. So the gentleman is correct.
Male mosquitoes will not bite. Female mosquitoes, the majority, just one or two. Say for instance, Tyrannicus. But most, or Toxuranthitis, but most mosquitoes will, a female has to get a blood meal. So generally we say the female mosquitoes bite, and in this case, this is when the males are perceived as being good. That the male mosquitoes do not bite. So
a slight moment.
So that's the answer to the question.
Okay, caller, you hear that, right? The mosquitoes, some don't bite. The males do not bite. The females are the biting ones. Okay, the gentleman was asking about the different, in terms of infection and the type of blood and so on. Doctors, I don't know if you can answer that. Before you answer, we have a call online. Good evening, caller, you're live and on the mark.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty good, and how are you doing?
I'm all right. I want to discuss this thing in a different point of view. Because I want to know how these mosquitoes get weaponized. We know mosquitoes don't make no virus. And the hijacking of the health system by capitalists. How are these mosquitoes? I become suspicious with any virus and I because it's a business now. How are these mosquitoes weaponized? How did they get the virus to pass down? Where they get it from? Because I'm suspicious. They don't make it. They don't make no virus. So where they get it from so they could spread from us? We are missing that link. Oh, just treatment. But the best cause is prevention. If you could eliminate how the mosquito get the disease, it won't be a problem. But somebody is using the mosquito to make a commercial value of commercial product. And I'm concerned about that. We come and we discuss this cure. But what about prevention? How are these mosquitoes weaponized? We must discuss that.
We're going to be discussing the prevention in a while.
They don't bond with virus. This time.
Thank you, sir. We're going to be discussing the treatment and how to prevent the bites and so on in a while, because I was going to be, before we go to that, I was going to ask about the gentleman from Kitso calling about the different types of blood and the different mosquitoes and that kind of stuff. I don't know if any of the doctors could answer his question where that was concerned.
Well, at the moment, all of us are at risk
all of us are
being
at risk.
bitten by the Aedes aegypti female mosquito, and so
no one is more at risk than any other. Everybody's at the same level of risk. Good.
Not that we are aware that anyone is more at risk, as Dr. Hobson says, we are all at risk of being bitten. Yes.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the mosquito, as Mr. Morton said, it is domesticated, it is around and in our homes, and so we are all at risk.
Okay. Mr. Morton, I know that your team at Environmental Health has been very, very active recently. Only this afternoon I was talking to someone and the person said they were very happy. They saw the team in the area doing some fogging. Tell us about what is happening in terms of trying to keep the mosquito population down. You can maybe speak to us about the fogging, what is happening, what the fogging does, and that kind of stuff.
The way that you control dengue is we look at the mosquito life cycle and we target the interventions based on that. So the first thing you want to do is the mosquito requires water, standing water in containers. So the first thing we do is, and this is the most important, and this is the one that will actually bringing in is you remove the source, remove the containers. We call that source reduction. So we go around, we're on the loudspeaker, we're giving out flyers, we're talking to people, telling them to remove the containers, turn them over, put them in a place where they can collect water, bore holes in the tires. If you have an old washing machine or a fridge or something in the back, take it to the landfill, remove the sources. If you have bromeliads, pull them up. That's what we advise you to do. That is the most effective, because if you don't have the containers, they can collect water, you're not going to have any mosquitoes, and if you don't have mosquitoes, you're not going to have dengue. The next line would be in terms of treating the containers, and this is not as effective as the one before, because this is when we do, so we go out, we do inspections, we apply larvicides. In the past, we used to use chemicals, and because the general chain of thought as there was, the more chemicals you use, the more effective it is. Health authorities tended to use a lot of chemicals, and what happened is that the mosquitoes built up resistance.
Okay.
So we have shifted away from that, and we are now using, say, biological larvicides. We add fish to tanks and that kind of stuff. So in terms of treating it, that's another option. Like I say, source reduction is the most effective. This is the one normally where the health inspectors come around and we do the inspections and we turn them over and we treat them. The issue though is we are finding that as soon as you treat a container, the person washes it out, put it back up, collect water.
Are you serious here?
I am serious.
So are you saying that you enter premises, you warn the person that this container should not be here because it could be breeding mosquitoes, and then you're saying that after you leave, the person puts back the container there to catch water again and to hold that stagnant water again? That is what you're saying?
Yes, collect more. And we've had cases where even before you leave the yard, they put the person, turn over the drum, put it back up.
Are you serious here?
That happens. So this is why we keep going around and we're preaching, because we cannot get an end. This thing is going to continue spreading unless we touch that. For instance, we were in church ground 3 weeks ago, and in one particular yard, the officers turned over a lot of buckets, and the lady, she did not want to get rid of them. They went back today. The buckets were back up, filled with water, and breathing again.
Before you go any further, we have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. We lost that caller. Caller, could you call back and could you have some patience, please? Go ahead, Marvin.
So that is it. Now, a lot of the public now have been calling for fogging. Fogging has its uses, it has its purposes. Sometimes you want a quick knockdown, but fogging is not sustainable. Fogging is the equivalent of you going to the supermarket and buying a can of bub, and every night you come, you spray in the house. The next day you open up again, the mosquitoes come back in. So if we fog, we come around, we don't have the resources to fog the entire island. If we fog, there's exposure to the public, there's exposure to the workers, and there is also exposure to the bees and butterflies and that kind of stuff.
Hold that thought. We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good evening. It's a question.
Yes.
Apart from the areas where there is fogging, do the officers go to homes like in the project, the development areas, and like it's for a long time, and check on people, make sure they have all those bins empty, etc.?
Thank you very much, caller. As a matter of fact, I think Mr. Moon was just touching on that.
Yes, but we still do the routine surveillance. The officers go around and we target, but most of the time we target communities where we have active spread. And then there are other communities now where there may be mosquitoes, but these mosquitoes, say for instance, would be culex. They are nuisance. They bother you at night, but they're not actively really spreading disease. So that's why we're targeting Aedes aegypti. Now back to the fogging issue. Fog, the way that the fog is designed, the fog is only going to kill the mosquitoes that are actively flying. So if we come around and the mosquitoes are flying, the fog hits them, it's going to kill them. But the mosquitoes that are resting, it will not do them anything. So as soon as the fog wears off, the mosquitoes come back. So somebody would meet you and they're like, oh, you were in this area fogging, and when you left, mosquitoes were back. Because the fog is not designed for that. And that is why we keep saying source reduction. Remove the containers. Go around your yard, turn over the drums, get rid of garbage. If you're passing along the street, don't take a cup or a can and just toss it out along the side of the road.
That's right.
Because any time water stays in that for at least a week, you're going to have mosquito breeding. So we're using some protocols where we do inspections in the areas where we have confirmed or suspected cases. We try to go in on the ground, and then after that we fog. But for you to just go in and fog and you don't remove the containers, you're not really solving the problem. So I know a lot of people, they're calling, they're asking for fogging, and usually the first thing I tell them, I say, take the opportunity, go out into your yard, look for containers that hold water, turn them over. If you have a drum and you know you really need the water, get some mesh, the fine mesh, get a wire and band it really, really tight. But you can't have water out there exposed. I tell them do that. Then I say, talk to your neighbors, because it takes a community.
Of course.
It's not one person. So if I do it and you don't, we're going to have some problems. So we're going out, we're following the protocols, but we just have a team of 5 vector control officers and we have about 3-4 inspectors involved. There is no way it is possible that we can visit every premises in Nevis weekly.
If someone sees their neighbor's yard with containers of water, can they call environmental health to report that?
They call. Because when they call, that's a complaint, we investigate, and sometimes we have traps that we could set. We've had instances where people would call and they say, if we find mosquitoes are bothering us, we come, we set the trap. Based on what you find in the trap, you know where and what to target. But if you see somebody and you realize they have drums in their yard, tires, buckets, garbage, call us.
Now, when you all came to cabinet, I would have asked this question because I was a bit puzzled, because when you said there were so many persons who had containers in the yard, I was a little puzzled, because I was saying, I mean, practically everybody has running water in their homes now, and so I was wondering, why do people now, with everybody having running water, almost everybody, why do so many people still need to have receptacles in their yard with water?
Some have varying, some you would say it's for the animals. There's one gentleman I think the officer counted about 15 buckets, and all of them were breeding.
But if it's for the animals, and the animals drink out the water every day, why would they be breeding?
Because the thing is, that container would have never been empty, so that means they keep topping it up, and topping it up, and topping it up. That happens. Another common thing is we find some people who love to have plants and they're trying to get them to root, and they put them in water, and we would show up and say, so we would say, put it in sand, because if you have it in the water, you're supposed to change that water at least twice a week. A lot of people are going to forget. That's another one. So anytime you find, we go around and you see people having lots of plants in their yard, the flowers looking good, that is always a red flag, because they tend to have lots of drums and buckets and that thing going around the property.
Let me ask another question, because you said that sometimes you go into people's yard and there are a lot of containers. Now, if you go into someone's yard, I'm sure you must ask questions of the person or persons who live there. You do your investigation and you realize, well, this person have 10 buckets in the yard. But based on the questions and based on the answers you're getting, this person have no need for these buckets. Does the environmental health has that power to take those buckets out of the yard and discard them?
Yes, we do have the power to remove them. And we've had instances where officers will go out and meet a drum. We will just puncture it because we have to.
Okay.
But we also have we have the mosquito regulations that you will use. But sometimes they always say when you use these regulations, the people who tend to be targeted more are the people who are more less fortunate, because they're the ones who are most likely going to have 10 drums and 15 buckets in the yard.
Now, earlier you spoke about to the issue of the bromeliads, and I think we need to expound on this a little bit more. As an agriculturalist, I know how persons love their bromeliads. They are very pretty. I know Dr. Nisbet loves flowers as well, right? And we know how rich they can make a garden look, right? Expound a little bit more about the bromeliads, because I know as an agriculturalist that they hold a lot of water.
So the bromeliads, by their nature, they're going to hold water.
Yes.
Anything that holds standing water is a potential source for breeding. And we have found a lot of bromeliads in Nevis, breeding mosquitoes. Sometimes people would call and say, I have mosquitoes. When you check, it's a bromeliad.
You serious? Yeah.
Now, in one area I saw, we went and we were talking to this lady, and she said, don't tell me to remove them because I spent good money. I didn't know that it was such a big business.
It is, and some of them are pretty expensive.
But they're not good plants to have around. And for you to treat them is, most of the people don't have the means to treat them.
Okay.
So we would say remove the bromeliads. Bromeliads are not something good to have.
And if the persons who insist they want to have their bromeliads, you said is it treatable? It may be expensive, but I'm sure even if they can't do the treating, I'm sure they might be able to get someone to come and do the treating.
The thing is that the chemicals that are to use to treat them, most of the time we are the only ones who carry them. So, for instance, if you say you wanted to use something simple, say some cooking oil, because you could just drop some cooking oil. If you have 200 bromeliads and you have to go around to put some cooking oil amongst each of the leaves, that's a lot. That's time consuming.
And the bromeliads have a lot of grooves.
Yep.
And so you'll have to treat all of those grooves.
Each and every one.
We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
We have a call on. Good evening, caller. You're live.
Caller, could you listen to the telephone? Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Good night again. Question again.
Yes.
Now, to the gentleman there. Now, what about people around, other people surrounded with that maybe land, and they got like empty old fridge, old bucket, and all those things on those land, and they grow in the high trees, and they're surrounded with mosquitoes. What the penalty for that, whatever this person report this thing, see it and they report it. Because a lot of things, him don't even think it. I can't even think it. And sometimes a neighbor land, something like up on the land, a lot of high trees, when you got old bucket, old fridge, old washing machine, all kind of things full of water. And the water they sit for years, months. Nobody studying them. And nobody cleaning the land. So what is that? What is that? What is that? The person who live in that surrounding area.
Well, I would.
For
instance, if you say you're calling from Sekit, so if you call environmental health and get them to go and investigate the matter, I know that.
Sometimes we put these things and nobody will stand to because, but let me tell you something, right? I don't wear animals. And the animals went to between some high grass and trees. And I go to the high grass and, but you know what, I put up on a big, them chiller, A big chiller, tumble over it, fall down and get a cut it, you know, because I grab it, and I grab the bad part of it, because it, like something what it done was happening and so. So something was exposed to it and so, and it cut me. And I said, look at this now, look at this. And when you report these things to the environment people, then nobody come check nothing, nobody study nothing. And this listen, we can't up to the that a program done about the same thing. Environment, people trying this there, people trying that there, people trying that there, and nobody concerned about nothing. And all these things, if you don't care about your country, as a citizen, as a national, you don't care about it. If you see things and you report it. And when you don't report it, nobody will stand back to you, come see whatever going on. And these things just stay here. So man, we got to come better than that, eh? We got to come better than that. In the federation, we got to come better than that. Because I look around as a citizen, and I want to see my country clean and see things the right. And if these gypsy mosquito or whatever mosquito then cause the hazard because of water, especially water spread the land and settle. And nobody wants to do nothing about it. But who can do about it? All right, then.
Thank you, caller. The caller raised a very important issue, and this is something that I actually, every opportunity I get, I speak about it, and that is indiscriminate dumping. And I am someone who is normally very passionate about the environment as well. And the person raised a good point, because really and truly, these are places where mosquitoes can breed. The fridge, the old washing machine, and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people, and I keep saying how cheap it is to dispose of these items at the landfill. It's very, very cheap. And we have some persons here, including some of the truckers, who they get paid to take this stuff to the landfill. They just dump them on people's land. They dump them in the guts. They end up in the sea. They collect water. They cause the mosquito hazard. And we need to come better than that. I agree with you 100%, caller. We have another call online. Good evening. You're live and on the mark.
Hey, good evening.
Yes.
I'm calling from the French. Every week there's collection of those items in the villages outside of town. In the town, every week there's a truck that come on and pick up all the old fridge, all the old things. So maybe we need to get a collection thing like that in place, that we collect all them things and nobody have to dump them. They have old fridge, you put them outside your door, truck come later, pick them up, go with them, but in the night or in the day. We need a collection from that to save anything the guys there. And then the spraying of the fogging affect the bees. 75% of the world food depend on bees. We have to here. I don't see them using no fogging here in Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe have over 5,000 pounds of water all over the country. I don't see them using no fogging. So for the bees, because there's a concern about eradicating the bees. Now there's a program on BBC showing that there's less bees throughout the world globally, and how are we going to get them back? And we're told that the chemicals that are used, especially in fogging, because President Brantley mentioned it last week, with the threat to the bees, that we must be cautious of how we use the fogging, because fogging will reduce the population of the bees, and it's 75% of our food depending on things. We could have end up hurting ourselves while we're trying to eliminate this mosquito. So we have to strike a real balance when it comes to doing anything. And still nobody answered the question we asked first, but and it's a tricky question, and nobody wants to get into those kind of things, but it must be asked this time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, caller. And of course, Mr. Morton did touch on the issue of the fogging and affecting the bees. So you hit a nerve there that we would have spoken about already. That yes, we have to be cautious in terms of the fogging, because we do not want to destroy the bees either. But if I could just get back to, and the person also said, the caller just mentioned something about the collection of the white goods, and I can tell you, caller, that we do have times when we do collection of these white goods, but irrespective of what you do, people will dump indiscriminately anyway. Sometimes they get the opportunity to get rid of their white goods free of charge, because I personally as the area representative for St. George, I organize a white good cleanup once a year, every year. I do it personally from my pocket, and it's costly, and people take advantage of it. But there's some persons, even though they have that opportunity, they still dump indiscriminately, and people need to have some national pride. People are just downright nasty sometimes. Because as I said, there's some truckers who get paid to take the stuff to the landfill, and they don't. They take people's money and they go buy a gut and they dump it in the gut. And we really need to come better in terms of enforcing our laws here, because people need to start paying for these nonsense. Because I said all of these things help breed the mosquitoes. Right? And so we need to have more national pride. We need to stop the indiscriminate dumping, because a lot of it ends up in the sea. It infects our marine life that we eventually have to eat. And some of those stuff that ends up in the sea are carcinogenic. They come back. We eat the fish, we eat the lobster, we eat the conch. We eat everything that comes from the sea. And so that is deviating a bit from what we are saying. But it comes back to the fact that these white goods can actually breed mosquitoes. Mr. Moon, you wanted to mention anything else about the gentleman spoke about the bees and the fogging?
Well, I think over the years people would have seen fogging, and like I say, this is one of the reasons for having us here, is for us to give updated information, because a lot of people wouldn't have realized that fogging only would take care of the mosquitoes that are flying.
People probably didn't know that, because I didn't know until last week.
So that is why. So when you realize that now, they say, oh, but fogging has its purpose. You may want a quick knockdown. But for us to really stop this spread of dengue, we remove the containers.
Yes. We can't say that enough.
That's what we have to do.
Now, apart from we need to remove the containers. Doctors, what do individuals need to do to protect themselves in terms of clothing, in terms of repellents and so on? What do people need to do? Because as I said, I know Dr. Hobson was saying she didn't want to scare anybody, but if we need to get the facts out there as well. People need to know that this problem is real and they need to protect themselves.
Yes, so there's personal responsibility. Apart from the source reduction at your homes, where you empty the standing water, etc., and to avoid breeding. Persons, you're going out in the communities, you're not staying at home all the time. What you can do is to protect yourselves by wearing long pants, long sleeves, so that you don't get bitten in these areas. Also, repellent is good. You can wear repellent, and that will, prevent yourself being bitten by mosquitoes. At home, the house could be screened. You keep the doors closed, and also sleeping under a bed net to avoid being bitten. So if you're taking a nap in the day, you sleep under a bed net. At night, you sleep under a bed net. So avoid getting bitten. And can't emphasize enough that if you go to your physician or you go to the hospital and you're told, I suspect that you have dengue, and a blood sample is drawn for testing, once you hear that, it means that you have to protect yourself from being bitten, so that you don't, a mosquito doesn't come and bite you and then go and infect someone else. I have to say that we have been doing blood draws at the hospital, and most the doctors are on point, because most of these tests are coming back positive. So it means then that persons must, once they get that diagnosis, I suspect that you have dengue, we are waiting the result, take the precautions as if you have dengue.
Now, a lot of these diseases, we hear about dengue, we hear about Zika. What's the other one? Chikungunya. You hear them spring up and then it lasts for a time and then you don't hear anything about them until probably another 2 years or whatever. How long can we expect that we're going to be hearing about dengue? How long generally do we expect this problem we are currently facing to last? Do we expect it to go for another 2 months, another month? When can we see an ease in terms of the cases generally, based on what would have happened in the past?
Okay, so we're seeing an increase in cases because of the increase in rainfall.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of stagnant water around and so forth, and then there's breeding. So once the rains slow down, stop, we expect that the cases will taper off. We're going into the dry season in the early, in
March.
In March.
Yeah.
So we may have a little more time, But if persons do what they're supposed to do, then we can nip this. We can stop the spread. That is why we are here, to educate persons and to tell persons, we can stop the spread if we just do what you're asked to do. Environmental health is out there, they're on the loudspeaker, they're saying what you need to do. If you just do that, then we can stop the spread, even before the rains actually stop.
We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yeah, just one more question.
Yes.
One time we had a program about the mosquitoes, and this similar to this program, and a lady called in and said that these mosquitoes is not real mosquitoes. They make mosquito in the lab now. From my coming up as a young boy, I always have mosquitoes, right? And you got different. I made to understand you got different mosquitoes.
Yes.
But the lady called in and said that they invented mosquitoes, no mosquito making lab. These mosquitoes in here we're beating us and doing all this kind of harm and all this kind of germs to us. She said that they come out, they create them in the lab. And what the difference between mosquitoes and granny nipper? Because when I was in Antigua, granny nipper used to bite me, especially over Param, but close to the sea. I used to go like a bite from the granny nippers. So I would just like to know what the difference between granny nipper and mosquito. If both of them do the same symptoms of dengue or whatsoever. I will listen to yourself the program.
Thank you. Mr. Morton, you care to answer that question?
No, the granny nipper is totally different.
Yeah.
You usually find them on the beach, those marshy areas.
So they would not give a disease per se?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
But in this case, the disease that we're really concerned about in terms of, say, really spreading, explosive spreading, the mosquito.
Okay.
There's always these reports that say that the deadliest animal, but leaving humans out, is the mosquito.
Wow. No, we're winding down time. We're running out of time. I mean, we've had so much to discuss about this problem. Mr. Morton, I know that your team has been out very often and very late. You all have been working overtime. Many times I talk to you and tell me how tired you are and so on. My heart goes out to you all. You did mention a lot of the time, sometime when you go out and you try to educate people, you turn over the drums, turn over the containers, they turn them back up. That is a challenge. Tell us some of the other challenges that you may be facing when you go out there to try to ensure that we keep the Aedes aegypti mosquito at bay. What are some of the challenges you're facing, you and your team?
I think one of the challenges, I guess most people in authority, police, everybody else have it now, is the general public. They're not that welcoming of government authorities. They come now, they think you have some sort of ulterior motive. Gone are the days when you used to tell somebody jump and they would jump, but they go question,
Right.
So we have to really change our approach. in the past, you were able to get to majority of houses. Now most people are working, so you do find a lot of
And
closed.
most people have dogs.
Well, we can come to that too. So you do find a lot of closed houses, and sometimes the houses that you want to target, you can't access them because maybe the people are working. You have to go back in the
Right.
afternoon and that kind of thing. Dogs is another issue, and so some of the officers, usually if I go, or maybe have the others, we would walk with a piece of pipe. Just to protect yourself if
Right.
dogs come out. Some officers would say they wouldn't. Once they see a dog, they're gonna go. So we do have some challenges. It is not easy, and usually you get a good tongue lashing from some people, but the majority of people are welcoming. But it is one of the things that I find is our laws have really not kept up to date. Some of our laws are really outdated. So in terms of these new threats, these emerging threats, the laws are really not there to deal with them. But that is something bigger than me.
With the issue of the containers, though, in yards, if you get a call, for example, somebody call and say, well, my neighbor has containers with water, you show up there to do your investigation. As an environmental health officer, can the homeowner prevent you from coming into the yard?
They can, but the law said no. We have the inspectors have the right to enter. And if somebody would say obstruct you, they don't want you to come in, we just go get a police officer. The police is going to show up just for security, and you do whatever you have to do. But they're not really supposed to.
Great. Okay, well, we're winding down. We just have another 3 minutes, and so I'm going to give each of our panelists, they have imparted such pertinent information tonight. I'm so happy that they decided to come. They took the invitation, and I mean, we have learned so much. I've learned so much, more than what I learned, even more than what I learned last week. And I'm sure the listeners and viewers have learned a lot as well, and people will take heed. That is the intent of this program, and so I'm going to give each of the panelists a chance to give some parting words, any advice you want to give to members of the public. I'm going to ask you to do so now, starting with you, Dr. Nisbet.
Okay, so I just want to say that I gave some figures at the beginning of the program,
Yes.
and I said that we have currently 96 laboratory confirmed cases. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we know that persons are out there, they have the symptoms, they don't show up to any doctor or health center. So we have a larger number of persons. So it means then that we have to, as a community, as families, to ensure that we curb the spread of dengue. We have to do what we need to do. We have heard tonight all the things that we need to do to curb the spread. I also want to reiterate something that Dr. Hobson said about medications, right? Do not self-medicate. Don't self-medicate. Get advice about what you need to take. Dr. Hobson would have told you what are the things, the Paramol, the paracetamol, etc. Not the aspirin, not the Voltaren, not the ibuprofen. So we wanted to get that out there, because these can, if you tend to bleed when you're having dengue, that can exacerbate bleeding, right? I also want to mention that in collaboration, well, the Red Cross has decided to come on board and assist us. They're going to be working alongside us with by providing mosquito nets. So there are some households that will get mosquito nets. So we're going to do our assessments and decide on the households. So please, mosquito is a domesticated animal. It's right inside your home. It's right surrounding your home. It is not a pet, and therefore we need to get rid of it. It's a pest and not a pet. So do whatever you can to get rid of all the mosquitoes and the mosquito breeding, the sources of breeding around your homes.
Thank you. Mr. Morton, 30 seconds.
I just want to say to everybody who's listening, watching, to please try to put what we say here into action. Go around your yards. Please eliminate these sources. That's the only way we'll get this thing under control.
Thank you. Quick word, Dr. Hobson.
Final word, if there are no mosquitoes, there will be no dengue.
Fantastic. You have the final word. Thank you so very much. I want to thank Dr. Nisbet, Dr. Hobson, and Mr. Morton for coming and imparting such relevant and pertinent information to us. We trust that you have listened and you will act. Okay? If there are no mosquitoes, there's no dengue. And so that's the final word. I want to thank all of you for listening and tuning in and watching for tonight. Of course, I remind you that you can listen to the program. There's a repeat broadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. It has been my pleasure hosting tonight. We want to thank you. Have a good night. God bless. And please get rid of the mosquitoes. Thank you.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.